All right. Spoiler free. Yeah, I would say so. There was a couple things that were kind of mentioned slightly. Nothing over significant, nothing that ruined the game, nothing that really gave me. I'd say maybe the thing about Klaus was the only thing that pointed me in the direction to try and spend time with him at all. But then the story kind of pushed me to start spending time with him also. And I was trying to spend time with everybody in general, especially considering I couldn't spend time with Lisette anymore, and Popo at a few points. But still, that might have led me in the direction. But I do appreciate getting the ending that I did. I would have been a little bit disappointed if I found out by the end of the game that there was something else. But that's kind of, unfortunately, what happens when you're going through games blind. You have the potential for missing things. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes, minor stuff. Nothing that really affected the gameplay. No real backseating. Or anything like that, and that's the stuff we want to avoid more than anything else, because it changes my feelings towards the game. It changes how I absorb a game, but I am glad I got to get all the appreciation out of this one. All right, so the music in this game, I really liked it. The tracks are really good. I know we joke and we say animu and so on and so forth, and we compare it to anime, and this game you could really compare it to anime in a lot of ways, I guess. Music kind of being like that with the voices and stuff like that, and all the lyrics, and kind of being like anime OSTs, openings, and the outros and things like that. Each of the witches having their own music, which is a cool thing that it went on through. And I didn't even get to see every witch's, both of their songs. I only got to see one song for all of them at one point or another, so there's even more of that. Bosses that had the ability to sing as well that would affect the map. I like that it played around music, and I always like when a game does that, because music's a very important thing to me in video games. I would say story is probably the most important thing above all, but good music can really push a game in a completely higher level for me, and make it way more memorable for me. So I'm going to go ahead and give the music a 9. I probably would have given it a solid 10 if there was a few tracks that weren't overused a bit too much. Particularly the ones when you're in the characters' worlds. I don't dislike that song, but if you're going to go and actually spend time and grow affinity with your characters, you're going to hear that song a lot. And the missions in this game are relatively long, so I definitely will be taking a couple tracks from this OST and putting it on my playlist that I have that I listen to when I'm at work and stuff like that. There's just some solid songs, and the end felt epic. The final battle, the battle against Klaus at the end, or Zeno at the end, and then going on from there. Oh no, I did not do that yet. I'll keep trying to talk while I set that up as well. I need to like get this set up. I never know when I'm going to beat a game, though, so it's kind of hard to set this up prior. But regardless, I really like the music in this game. There's goofy music, there's really serious music, there's sad music. It really added to the atmosphere, it added to the levels, it added to the characters, and yeah, it's all over the place in this game. Even if you're not a huge fan of how all the tracks sound and stuff like that, that's fine. I mean, to each their own with what they like. I'm gonna go ahead and skip this song just because it has lyrics, and I'll be talking over it. Oh, come on! No, stop! Alright, I guess I'll just turn it down a little bit, because it seems like every song is gonna have lyrics now. Alright. But yeah, again, it's okay to have your own genre of music and stuff like that. You might not like some stuff that other people like, but I can appreciate what this game did with its music. I did like a lot of it, but it's just, there's so much of it. It's really well done. I really liked it. If I do anything, if I know that there's a person that won't play this game because of the kind of harem-y type setting and kind of pervy aspects to it and things like that, I would tell somebody to listen to the OST at the very least. Where is this song from? I don't remember this song. This must be someone else's second song. This kind of sounds like Lisette's voice, so it's maybe Lisette's second song or something. Anyway, go ahead and click on that and rate the game. It doesn't matter if you were here for a day, here for 5 minutes, here for the entire stream. I want to see what you think of it. I always appreciate getting an outlook of what chat thought, and it just gives me, you know, it gives me something to kind of base off how I'm feeling about it too, if I'm completely being one-sided in some regards. Okay, graphics rating for the era. I haven't played a whole lot of 3DS games, so I really don't have much to compare it to graphically. I would say that the art design of the characters and stuff like that's definitely solid. I would say that the sprite work is kind of what I expect for a 3DS game. It's nothing super amazing. Characters don't do very fluid movements and stuff like that. But the sprite design, especially on some of the characters, was great. Like the Nanako attack, that was hysterical. I mean, her going in, tossing this thing, making it look all epic and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden her box falls on top of her head. That was adorable. That was unique, and the sprites were good enough to convey something like that. I would say that the bosses in some cases were maybe a little bit lacking. Like themselves, I guess, except for the later bosses. Then they started to look great and their attacks looked really epic and stuff like that. But up until that point, each boss was just kind of doing physical attacks and so on and so forth. But yeah, the late game bosses and stuff, really solid, with the animation design going with those sprites that they had. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that out of a lot of the games that I played for the 3DS, that this is probably one of the better graphic games. But I haven't played a lot of 3DS games, especially RPGs. So I'll go ahead and give it a 9. Alright, so story rating. I'm not gonna say that the story of this game was weak. It definitely wasn't. It had a premise. It's the basic, we're gonna save the world type of thing. It focused a lot more on spending time with characters and things like that. And I guess my one major problem with the story is I would have maybe preferred a little bit more gameplay in between the story elements. I feel like there were some sections of the game where I was literally reading text for a solid hour, which of course happens in RPGs, but you're kind of moving around and stuff like that. That's where it was kind of taking more of the storybook approach or more of the visual novel approach. So it was a hybrid of that. It had gameplay, but it was definitely a partial visual novel as well. And you have to know what you're getting into when you play something like that. And I didn't exactly know that that's what this was going to be. So there's a few times where when I was streaming, I was expecting to get a few battles done and things like that, but I maybe did one, maybe 2 battles that day, and the rest was reading text. I always have a problem with games too where the main character really can't do any wrong. And I kind of would have appreciated Alto a little bit more if he didn't get anything from Elcrest, if he was just himself. The fact that he got his major best ability at the end of the game because of Elcrest, I kind of wish he would have just gained something on his own, something that wasn't Elcrest. The whole idea was to make him his own separate entity and stuff like that, but then I feel like he was just Elcrest 2.0. And I feel like, again, with this type of plot, the whole idea of characters aren't going to communicate at all, and that's how we're going to progress the plot. We're just going to have a lot of characters not communicate together. That frustrates me so much, because when they finally opened Hilda up a little bit more, and they had her start expressing how she felt and what was going on, not only did it make sense, but it showed me a greater dynamic of her character, because we already suspected something. Obviously, she was doing what she was doing for a reason. We didn't need to know the reason exactly, but her attempting to have a conversation with somebody at any point in time for the first 30 hours of the game really would have changed my opinion on this. But, because to me, it really was obvious. Something else was going on in the background. I didn't know who it was, what was causing it, or anything else, but Hilda obviously wasn't meant to be the primary bad guy of the game. That aspect was rushed too much, and the characters were all gung-ho with hating her and so on and so forth. And when you're playing a game where the main character can't do anything wrong, it's more than likely that you're going to play a game where no character ends up being the bad guy by the end of the game. That and the final bad person thing, woman, giant, naked lady on top of bowling ball type thing. Just random character out of nowhere that appears. That's always something that frustrates me with games as well. It kind of fit. It looked like Eve and Mary. It looked almost like, I would have almost wished it was like them combined in personality, or it was expressed that way or something like that, but it was just like this entity that existed and was doing the bad. But overall, it's good versus evil. You know, some people are kind of good and evil at the same time, so on and so forth. It's your basic plot. But I did have a lot of heartwarming moments with the characters, and that definitely goes with story rating for me as well. I love games where characters bounce off of each other, and there was a lot of that here. There was a lot more of that than actual gameplay, I feel, but it was still nice. So I'm going to go ahead and give that an 8. I wish the story was a little bit more solid. I wish the main story wasn't quite as generic, but there was a lot of very, very epic moments in this game that were just felt good to play, and there was just a lot of moments that were straight up silly, and they were fine. Maybe just if it was managed a little bit better. Weighed maybe more so 50-50 than a lot more hijinks than anything else. Alright, mechanics rating. This was pretty much just a solid basic tactics game. The orb system was really what was meant to open it up more than anything else, I suppose. Each character was relatively unique. I would say that maybe Sakuya and Archibald were some of the worst characters, and they potentially could get better if you grow affinity with them, I'm sure, or if there was some type of movement item for Archibald, I could see him being strong. But I never quite understood how defense works. I'm guessing it was just kind of a proc. There was a % chance of it happening, but it was effective when he got it off. So I could see him, with the amount of damage that he could do, and if he could defend a lot of attacks and stuff like that, him being a very good primary character. But his movement is just way too slow. And that's kind of where I leaned with this game. I used the characters that felt the most effective early, and then I stuck with them. And a lot of that had to do with high mobility, decent damage, and the ability to either heal themselves or do different types of damage. And I really stuck with that type of comp. And that's kind of where the problem lies with the mechanics in this game, I feel. There are a few times in this game where you're going to be forced to use particular characters, and the game does not do anything to prep you for that. They don't force level ups on the characters, they don't put them into a scenario where they've got the opportunity to level up and get to around where your characters are or anything like that. You become completely blindsided by it. And then your tactics have to change completely from trying to clear a mission to straight up having to baby this character so it doesn't die, because if it does, it's the end. There's a few frustrating moments I had with that, because I wanted to try to use the character, I wanted the opportunity to see what they could do, but instead I just had to hide them or run them away the entire time. There's a lot of missions like that in tactics games, where it's like one or two thrown across it, and those tend to be the most annoying. The VIP type missions and stuff like that, but those are NPC characters. Those are characters that aren't quite in your party yet, and they're being controlled by AI in most cases. It kind of makes sense. But these were characters that were 9 times out of 10 already in my party doing something. It's just I didn't level them. If I were to go through the game again, I definitely would know what chapters I'm going to need certain people for, and I would just try to sneak the witches in as early as possible, make sure they're at about in the level 30 or so they don't die during particular fights, and they're pretty useful. But other than that, I didn't want to be forced to use characters. I used the characters that I liked, but it did make a lot of struggle later. Also, if you're not going to give me the ability to revive a character, do not make every mission over if the main character dies. There's a sense of that, I feel, in Fire Emblem, where all of your characters can die. So the main character dying and it being GG and stuff like that, okay, I get it, because it fits the scenario. But in a game where all of your characters can die and run away and things like that, if they're the primary, or if they're not the primary characters, getting crit one time and dying, or the boss getting a double proc on something, or you getting burnt, and all the different ways that you can die instantly, it's so frustrating in this game because of how long the battles actually are. And maybe I was just dumb. Maybe my actual progression through the game and stuff like that was silly. I didn't use good skills. I didn't use good orbs. I didn't upgrade equipment long enough or quick enough, and so on and so forth. There's plenty of excuses as to why I had trouble in a lot of missions. And I'm not going to agree that grinding was one of them, even though that was an option, because we obviously proved that you didn't have to grind by beating the game. But I feel like the whole Alto dying thing and a mission being over made me so scared to use him 9 times out of 10. I was just keeping him close to somebody to conduct somebody instead. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I understand it from a story perspective for sure. I just kind of wish it was more of like a Final Fantasy Tactics approach where your character gets downed and you have maybe the opportunity to bring them back and make it like, hell, make it a rare item or something that costs a crap ton of SP to cost, like all of your SP to revive the character or something like that. It's unlikely you're going to be able to do that more than once for battle, but it would add a little bit more tactics to the nature of, I'm going to take a risk with my main character here, try to get some damage off. If they die, I have a backup plan. Instead, my backup plan was kind of keep him away from stuff unless he was going to definitely be able to kill or be able to take at least one hit. In which case, we figured out a few times, him being able to take one hit isn't always enough. So there was definitely a couple of frustrating mechanics in this one. And I feel like these mechanics rear their heads more so when you're playing for extended periods of time, like I did for anywhere from 5 to 10 hours and things like that. I get to see a lot of the same stuff again and again and again in the same stream, and when I'm seeing it again and again and again, it starts to weigh on me more, and I start to think about it a lot more, for sure. So if this game's played in, little bits and pieces, doing one chapter at a time, maybe doing a couple fights and so on and so forth, the way I think it's really meant to be played, you're not going to see this type of stuff as much. It's not going to weigh on you quite as much. But I still do think it's a slight flaw in the mechanics of the game. Orbs could have been explained a little bit better, kind of how they could proc and how often they could proc. Some of the stuff was using percents, and then other stuff would be like, great chance of proccing, or mediocre chance of proccing. I don't understand what that means, or whether that's worth it or not, and you really have to test it, but then you're going to have to be using resources to test that type of stuff. So if you cannot kind of understand where I'm coming from, when the game wants you to be versatile, it wants you to build the way that you want to build, but without having any knowledge of a build working, it kind of makes it difficult to do that, and your resources are kind of limited without grinding. In fact, there was a couple orbs I couldn't even make because I did not have the prior orbs to be able to make them. But I'm sure there was some way to grind that as well. And the last major mechanic that I was a little bit on edge about with this game, because of how long some of the missions lasted, the very, very, very large maps in some cases that didn't actually house a whole lot of anything going on other than more spawn plates for enemies from those guys that could spawn stuff. It was, if you're going to put them in, if you're going to say that no matter what, this enemy is going to spawn some enemies, at least like give me an idea of the enemy type that's going to be there. In Fire Emblem games, if you're fighting a whole bunch of enemies and stuff like that, it's more than likely going to be that you're going to have the same enemy type or an enemy type that fits that map. In this game, it was anything. It was spawning those launcher things, it was spawning more angels, it was spawning these flying things that could stop my time and things like that. And because the missions were already long, getting to that point and then having something like that just happen out of the blue was pretty frustrating as well. It's a little bit different than enemies coming to your right side and killing you really quickly, and then an enemy that's going to cause a status effect that you haven't had caused or put on you at all for the entire game. So I'd say the mechanics are definitely solid. If you like tactics game, definitely give this game a shot. Keep in mind that you're going to have the visual novel aspect to it as well, and if that's something that you're into, you're going to really enjoy all the mechanics of this game. I would say that I wish I kind of knew how affinity and stuff worked a little bit better as well. I definitely wasted some time going to the stores and stuff like that, but it seems like you couldn't max everybody's affinity on your first try anyway. That's something that bothers me a little bit too. I didn't like having to pick and choose what characters I could get by the end of the game as much as I had to. So, all that said, I still really enjoyed the game. The things that I was bothered by a little bit aside and so on and so forth, I'm going to give it a solid 7. Alright, grinding. I definitely didn't grind, and I talked about this a lot in the mechanics as well. I see that there's the option to do so. There's places on the map that you could go. So I will say that there's 2 grinding elements in this game that I did come across. The maps were very large, and many of the enemies took a long time to kill, and the fights just in general were long. I consider that kind of grindy in nature. And also having to get the experience on your characters so that they could live. Like getting experience on the witches and stuff like that. Just trying to get them to get a kill, or trying to get them to absorb as much experience as possible rather than using a unit I'd prefer to use. That was a bit grindy also. So I guess overall I'll say that that was an 8 as well. You really didn't have to grind very much, so... And I know the game is open up for people grinding, but it's not something you really had to do to beat it, so... Alright, let's see what you guys rated it before I go ahead and give mine. An instrumental track of what? Hold on. Oops, I did not mean to bring that up over the list so you guys couldn't see it. Sorry. Okay. Let me get back to doing math. Okay. More people keep voting. We got quite a lot of votes this time. That's always nice. I'm always curious to see what you guys think of a game. It gives me a completely different perspective that I appreciate. Thanks, Mr. Eggs. I appreciate it, man. Okay. I think I did that right. Yep. All right. Looks like you guys gave it an 8. That sounds about right. That's what I'm leaning towards as well. There's definitely a lot of aspects that I like. I really liked. I really enjoyed. It's a relatively long game. It's a pretty solid tactics game. There were some elements that were a little bit too lewd for me. I can deal with stuff like that, but again, streaming that type of stuff it's difficult, it's awkward, it's weird. But they made up for it with a lot of goofiness and so on and so forth. So I had a lot of fun with it. But this is definitely my willingness of... I always rate my overall rating on how willing I am to... Please. It's always how willing I am to recommend the game to somebody. And I would say that the lewd stuff and things like that would not be the reason that I would tell somebody not to play the game. I feel like they add a funny element to it. And they're silly enough that they're worth checking out. I would say the thing that's probably going to turn off people to the game is the fact that if you're not ready for a visual novel, or a very big visual novel elements, then you're gonna kind of get a lot more of that than you do the actual tactical fights and things like that. So that would be my major warning to somebody, is that if you like visual novels, you're gonna love it. If you're okay with them and things like that, there's gonna be a little bit of a breakdown. It's kind of weighed in a good way, but maybe a little bit more story and sitting around than doing anything else, so be prepped for that. And I'd say because of those few things, that would I'd be a little bit less willing to recommend it to people. But I will say this: it's not often that I play games where little bits and pieces of things happen, like character interaction and things like that, that really stick with me. And whether that becomes something because it's cute, or something because it's really funny, something because it's just a really sweet character, or just something that just feels very genuine. And there's a lot of that in this game. There's definitely a lot of that. a lot of stuff that's going to sit with me. I mean, come on. We had a baby with Hilda at the end. I was not expecting that. That was very sweet. That made me feel made me feel sad and happy at the same time. Seeing her personality grow through the game. I really appreciated that, and I feel like she had a lot of depth to her as well. So there's definitely some memorable characters in this game that I will take with me, and I always appreciate that. So I'm kind of between giving it like an 8 and an 8.5, and since you guys know that I don't round up, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's going to be an 8. And I don't give the decimal numbers for my ratings as well. I'm definitely willing to recommend this to people that have a 3DS, especially any game from this developer, to be completely honest with you. And I would definitely lead off with those warnings. But still, what a really solid game. I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I really did. Alright, so, probably not for a while. But I will definitely watch all the endings. We'll watch all endings. All the individual endings of the characters and everything else. I'm definitely curious, because I missed out on a lot. I could have seen Nonika's, but I guess I saved over the wrong thing, so I couldn't go back and check that. But all the other characters, I'm curious to see what happens with Lisette. I want to see what the songs are like and things like that. Is it lewd? Well, maybe it's good I didn't see that one on stream then. Yeah, Zapdos, give it a shot. It definitely seems like a game that's up your alley. It's got a tiny bit of fan service here and there, but overall it's just a feel-good game. It really is. I did not, but I heard that the voice actor is someone familiar, and I won't spoil that for anybody that doesn't know or doesn't care. Alright, so we beat the game today, the 12th of November, 2018. It took us 51 hours, 10 minutes, and 48 seconds to beat the game. We definitely struggled a bit. If we didn't die quite as often, we maybe would have been able to beat it sub 50. But I'm glad I didn't have to grind at all. I always appreciate a game that I can beat without having to grind. Oh, not this song. We heard enough of this song. I'm going to pass this one a little bit if I can. Oh, wait, where's this at? This one's better. This is perfect Raffle music. Alright guys, you know what time it is. It is Raffle time. Again, for those of you new to the stream, this is where you have the opportunity, if you type in the word Raffle, to pick the next game that I play. Not a limited amount of times that you win. Mr. Regs, thank you for the 16 months in a row, man. Thank you for that continued support. I really appreciate it. Let's get some sub hype in chat, guys. Oh man, Boob Cannon's right on top of that. But yes, I know that there's a lot of people here that lurk as well. Please, if you want to see a game, go ahead and jump in, type in the word Raffle. It enters you in a chance to win. Everybody has an equal chance to win. And again, as I said earlier, there's no limit to the amount of times that you can win. Also, if Nightbot happens to win, I will create a list of 5 games for you guys to choose from. We'll host it in the Discord, and you guys will all be able to vote between those 5 games to pick one. And while we're doing that, let's talk about this game a little bit more. I've always expressed to you guys that character development is my favorite thing in story. I guess, really, I haven't really played a visual novel before other than, what was the one? Doki Doki? Yeah, that one. So, I've watched some anime that's kind of visual novel-y, I guess, or spans from a visual novel, but I've never really played much of one. And I feel like this was a unique mix to it, but it made me realize that because I like character development as much as I do, that I might actually like visual novels. So that might be something that I consider, at least giving a try on my own time. But yeah, I really do like watching the characters bounce off each other, and Hilda was adorable. Absolutely adorable. Definitely the best witch, by far. Hands down. I'm sure you would know, Real. Alright guys, we'll give it about another minute here. Again, all you have to do is type in the word Raffle, enters you in a chance to win. I try my best to make sure that everyone that's here that typed it in or that wanted to enter is in. And you guys can start taking a look at the list as well. Get prepped just in case you win. This sounds like Raffle music, right? Everyone's frozen with anticipation. No one's talking. It's the theme of Nakurdi. Oh man. Alright. Good luck, everybody! 3, 2, 1. Boom cannon! You did it, man! You won! You won! You finally won! Now the question is, are you going to pick the game you've been talking about picking forever, or are you going to troll and pick something else? Had enough singing? I don't care, man. This is your win. You pick whatever you want. I'm up for whatever. It is someone new. Yeah, Boom Cannon hasn't won before. Yeah, definitely hasn't won. Rigged. L-Tannen, please. You've won plenty. But congrats, dude. I know you're here, so go ahead and take your time. Go ahead and pick what game you want to see. In the meantime, I'll go ahead and highlight this screen because we finished it. And Eden, very, very solid pick. I really appreciate that pick. I have not played very many 3DS games, so it was very nice to have a solid 3DS game. I do appreciate that. And thank you for being here for like every stream as well. It's always nice when someone picks a game and is here for it. Alright, that means game 68 is picked by Boom Cannon. And I have no idea what it is yet. Give him hell because he gave you hell with the raffle? What? How you doing tonight, Zephyr? Bum, ba da da. This is great, because Boom Cannon was like so set on what he was going to pick if he ever won the raffle until he won the raffle. And now he's like, what do I pick? I give what I think is plenty of time to pick. And we know he's here. It's only been 2 minutes since he's responded that he won. The world ends with you. Okay. Not what I expected. Well, now you have another game to pick if you win again. The world ends with you. Funny story, I have the cat from this game. I've never actually played it, but I have a stuffed animal of the cat. I'll have to find that for when I stream. I have no idea where it is. It's in my boxes of stuff that I've never moved. Gonna play the DS version or the Switch version. I got it off of somebody made it. Probably going to need a vertical layout. So is the Switch version out already, or how long is it going to be until the Switch version is out? No, never played it, so it's out. Okay. I'll have to talk to Nakuri a little bit about how we want to set up stuff like that in the future. If you guys have to see both screens, we have to think of something else. We might have to change the layout a bit and have less stuff so that we can make these screens larger and take up more space. One of the major problems with DS screens is just how they are, their aspect ratio and things like that. Makes it difficult to really fit them on without not taking up a lot or taking up too much. We'll think of something. It has bad controls in docked mode. Interesting. Huh. We did. Error. I went away from that so that because there was a primary screen that was used much heavier in this game, which is why I stuck to that in this game, where the bottom screen was just on the top right. I could use the ones that are side to side, but I don't know how much that's going to help. I'll look into it a little bit more. We're playing DS games back to back. I should have researched it a little bit more before that. But we got Threads of Fate in between, so that gives me some time to work on it and get stuff set up. Listen to the Switch version soundtrack if you want. Well, like I said, guys, for the most part, I'll always try to play the original. It just really depends on what I have access to. So if I have better access to the Switch version over the DS version, I'll play the Switch version regardless of it being better or worse. And you guys can tell me the difference. If I can get a copy of the DS version, I will more than likely play that since I have the ability to do so. But we'll see how it goes. I have emulated a lot of DS games, and I don't know how that game would be on emulator over looking down at the screens. I'm not sure. I guess we'll figure it out. One step at a time. I might ask some questions in Discord about it and things like that. But there is one more thing we do here, guys, on a day that we finish a JRPG. We raid somebody, and we always think of a message to raid somebody with that applies to the game that we just played. So you guys start thinking about what we want to send somebody. That comes from Stella Glow, and I will find somebody to raid. Tune the grill. We have to go with Nin Nin. We can't not. I mean, come on. No. We need to go with that. Yeah, Box Chan best character. So, all right. So get your Nin Nins ready, guys. We are gonna actually host Ninnies, which this works perfectly because it fits his name. So yeah, spam your Nin Nins. When you get over there, wish him some luck on his speedruns and his practice and things like that. But before that, I want you guys blowing up his chat. I don't want him to see anything but Nin Nin and him have absolutely no idea what we're talking about. Alright, guys? Alright, let's get this raid started. Spam them, guys! And thanks again for sticking around, everybody. I really appreciate it. We will more than likely start Threads of Fate tomorrow, and I'll see you then.